So Apple has officially announced their new awe-dropping event on September 9th, and of course we're going to get the new iPhone 17 lineup and all the new redesigns, and all the new operating systems. We're going to get the updates to the 26 versions of them. But there's one product that Apple's set to release on September 9th that is more exciting and one that I'm looking forward to the most, and that has to be a new revamped Apple Watch Ultra, their Ultra version 3. And in this video, we're going to talk about all the different things that are coming out with it because it's finally getting a change both internally and externally. Let's talk all about it and why I think it's going to be Apple's most recommended product moving forward. Let's get into it. But now, if you do enjoy videos like this one, consider subscribing to the channel to stay up to date with more Apple news related videos just like this one. But now let's talk about why this Apple Watch Ultra 3 is going to be Apple's best product of the year. So Apple released the original Apple Watch Ultra back in September of 2022, and in this Apple Watch, it was pretty much everything that Apple could do and throw at it to make it the best Apple Watch possible. It had much better battery life, it had the biggest and best display that you could get at the time. For an Apple Watch, it was built for marathon runners and hikers and long distance runners and divers, people that would kind of take everything to the extreme, but still wanted to be able to track their metrics from a health standpoint and also from a usability standpoint. And it was also the most rugged. It was made out of titanium, and you could tell that the chassis was made to be worn and to be kind of beat up over time, versus the Apple Watch series, the regular ones, were a little bit more dainty, for lack of a better term. And since 2022, we've had a couple of iterations with the Apple Watch Ultra 2 and then the new colorway last year with the Ultra 2 in the black titanium. But honestly, I remember recommending that people that had the Ultra 1 stay with the Ultra 1 because they actually still had their blood oxygen sensor and the capabilities that came around that. Versus with the Ultra 2, with the whole lawsuit that they were dealing with, Apple had to remove the capabilities of the blood oxygen sensor, so you actually got a worse product even though it was a newer one. But now, 3 years later, in steps the Apple Watch Ultra 3, which is set to release on September 9th during the awe-dropping event, and there's a lot of changes happening, so we're going to go over all of those, and this is why I'm the most excited for this Apple Watch. So first and foremost, we're going to get a larger display. They're going to take the approach that they took when the iPhone 15 to the iPhone 16, where the actual form factor and footprint is going to remain the same, but we're going to get more pixels and the bezels are going to shrink just a little bit. It's supposed to be about 422 by 514 pixels in terms of size, versus the current Apple Watch is 410 by 502. So it's a small increase, but in a screen size this small and on your wrist, you will notice it. It's supposed to go from 49 to around 51 to 52 millimeters diagonally for a display size, which is pretty big for something that goes on your wrist. But what's nice to know about that one is that the casing shouldn't change, so if you do have a case for your casing, it'll still fit, and also, of course, all the Apple Watch bands will still be compatible with this future Apple Watch Ultra 3. The display is also going to get a much bigger upgrade to the actual tech behind the display itself, being an OLED LTPO3 display, so it's going to be a much smoother refresh rate because, again, this is meant to have an always-on display, and it can go up to 120 Hz, and the range between 1 and 120 Hz, it ranges depending on how smooth it is with certain displays. This one's going to be the latest and greatest, making those always-on displays and just a smoothness of transitioning from 1 all the way to 120 much smoother moving forward. And it's going to be a wide-angle OLED, so what that means is if you have seen the new Apple Watch Series 10 that came out last year, that kind of has a little bit of a waterfall design where the glass curves just ever so slightly over the edges. Versus the current Apple Watch Ultra, you can see that it is a hard 90-degree angle and it's a very flat display. This one's going to have a little bit more of a curvature to it. It's going to be a little bit more bubbly to give it that wide angle OLED, which not only is going to make it look a little bit more premium, but it's also going to give the illusion that yes, the display is going to be physically bigger, but it's going to feel even bigger than that because of that little waterfall that goes off in that curvature. It just plays a little mind trick with you, making it seem a little bit larger. And it'll also do a much better job of hiding the bezels versus right now on the Apple Watch Ultra, you can clearly see the bezels around it unless you use a black background. Another big one that's coming to the Apple Watch Ultra, which funny enough I thought was already around with the Apple Watch Ultra 1, it's going to be 5G connectivity. As of right now, there's only one option to purchase with the Apple Watch Ultra. You can't get a non-cellular version, but it does come with 4G LTE built in. Now we're going to get the step up to 5G, so it's going to be faster, it's going to be more capable, and it's going to enable satellite messaging as well, which is something that the current Apple Watch can't do, which is again very interesting since it's an Apple Watch Ultra and it's meant to be going on these long, extensive hikes. So there are wayfinding capabilities that it has, but as of right now, you cannot actually emit an SOS message like you can from an iPhone if you do get lost somewhere that doesn't have any cell connectivity. But now let's talk all things sensors with the Apple Watch Ultra, because like I mentioned in the beginning, even though you got the Apple Watch Ultra 2 and the blood oxygen sensor was physically on the Apple Watch Ultra 2, being able to capture that data was not allowed with the Ultra 2 because of the lawsuit that they were dealing with, Apple was, with Massimo and the way that all that data is curated and things like that. There is now a workaround that Apple has given us with iOS 26 and iOS 18.6.1 and newer, that does allow you to read the data on these Apple Watches and be able to see it on your phone. You just can't see it on your Apple Watch. And that will continue with the Apple Watch Ultra 3 until some other fix happens from a lawsuit perspective. But another big sensor that's coming in is going to be high blood pressure notifications. So from my understanding, this is not going to be a blood pressure monitor. Like, this is not going to be used and meant for just to get your blood pressure readings on a normal day to make sure you're 120/80 and you have a healthy blood pressure. This is going to be more so indicators when you do have high or low blood pressure, so you can do something about it, or actually go check and use a real health monitor to be able to check it, to double check whatever Apple's giving you from an Apple Watch perspective. So this is not going to be a medical grade blood pressure indicator, but it will let you know, like, hey, it seems like it's a little bit high, you should go get it checked out if you do have one at home, which I think is a big one, especially for people that have a history of high blood pressure and they need to be checking it on a daily basis. I think it's going to be great. Even though it's not going to be medical grade, it'll still be a net positive for people that need to check it on a regular basis. And then we gotta talk battery life, because as of right now, yes, the Apple Watch Ultra 3 is the best battery life in any Apple Watch, giving you 36 hours on regular usage and up to 60 hours in this like low battery mode. And I do get, by the end of the second day, I definitely need to put it on a charge. I'll charge it almost every day. I probably charge it, let's say, 5 times a week. So I know that for an Ultra watch and for these kind of watches that maybe promise to do a little bit more, there's other watches that give you much better battery life. But the Apple Watch is basically a phone on your wrist, so I don't expect it to have the best battery life overall, but it would be nice to be able to extend it to a full 2 or 3 days while use it regularly without going into this low power mode. And I think that's going to be possible with their new SiP that they're putting in there. I believe it's going to be the S11 chip that's going into the Apple Watch Ultra, and it's going to be a little bit bigger, being able to fit a little bit bigger battery, so I wouldn't be surprised if we can get up to 48 hours on a regular day or regular use, and be 72 to 80 hours on that low power mode. But who knows, maybe Apple will surprise us and give us a 100-hour Apple Watch Ultra, which would instantly make this thing sell like hotcakes and kind of wash away a lot of the other competition. So that's everything you need to know in terms of capabilities and features and look of the Apple Watch Ultra. It'll probably still come in those 2 different colors with the natural titanium and the black titanium. So we're going to get a new display that's going to be larger, better display tech with the LTPO3 OLED. We're going to get 5G and satellite connectivity. It's going to have the S11 SiP for the system on a chip. It's going to have a blood pressure sensor or indicator. It's going to have better battery life overall. Blood oxygen is going to be coming back to a certain extent, albeit it's going to come to other watches as well, not just the Ultra, but something to take into account. And it's still going to remain at that $799 price point, which is good to see, with only one version available, which is going to be the cellular enabled one, which is also something that I do like with this type of Apple Watch. But that'll do for this video, everybody. Let me know in the comment down below what you think. Are you going to be pre-ordering one? Do you have an Apple Watch Ultra right now? I believe the pre-orders will begin on September 12th, with those Apple Watches arriving on September 19th. So definitely stay tuned and subscribe to the channel, because we will be picking one up, reviewing it, comparing it to the old Ultra 2, which I have right here, which is my most used and worn Apple product of all time. But that'll do it, everybody. If you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin so I know that you made it to the end, and leave a comment down below and maybe a joke about an Apple Watch, and I'll pin the coolest joke in the comments down below. But that'll do it, everybody. I'm Fernando. Peace.